I was always the family's built-in babysitter, the youngest, the most available, the one with no real responsibilities according to them. That's how I ended up becoming the full-time caretaker for Ethan, my sister Lauren's autistic son. When I was only 14, she would shove him through the front door mid-meltdown, texting me from the driveway about emergencies. It became routine. I knew his therapy schedule better than my school one, his sandwich preferences down to the millimeter, the exact TV volume he'd tolerate. And if I got it wrong, I'd end up with bruises trying to keep him from hurting himself. My parents never asked. They decided during one dinner. Lauren cried about exhaustion, and Dad made it clear that family responsibility meant I had to help. I was rearranged like furniture. My weekends and afternoons mapped around Ethan's needs. I lost my friends one by one, missed parties, dances, and driver's ed because Ethan needed me. Meanwhile, Lauren posted spa days and date nights on Instagram, pretending her life was balanced and beautiful. Then came Tyler. He didn't know me as the girl who always canceled. We talked between classes, hung out near the parking lot, and he made the world seem bigger than this tiny prison. When he invited me to a party, I dared to ask. Lauren laughed. Ethan would only tolerate me if I wasn't their head spiral. My mom backed her up with the usual family first lines. Tyler broke up with me in his car while rain battered the windshield. He said he couldn't compete with my family that night. Ethan screamed about chicken nuggets while Lauren sent instructions from her date. I snapped at dinner, said I was drowning. Lauren rolled her eyes. Dad slammed the table. I got grounded. My phone taken, my laptop gone, my babysitting doubled. So I started sneaking out through the window, just walking at first, then to the park with a friend who'd share vodka-laced slushies and catch me up on teenage life. When I got caught, my window got nailed shut. One boring day, I explored the attic. I found a box of files, my name on therapy reports, autism diagnosis, treatment notes, one letter from my doctor circled in red. Parents inquired about using patient as companion for sister's child, strongly advised against. Then I saw it, Ethan's birth certificate, my name, not Lauren's, mine, listed as the mother. I shoved it back as footsteps approached. Mom's, she pretended, small talk, eyes scanning for disturbances. I faked boredom and asked about old books, but my heart thundered. Lauren was listed as Ethan's grandmother. Later, Mom said Lauren had something to discuss. Lauren at the table scrolling her phone while Ethan lined up crackers. She announced a new job in another state. She was taking Ethan, and I realized if she left, I might never see him again or protect him from whatever they were hiding. Ethan looked up and reached for my hand, his fingers wrapped around mine like something in me recognized him. I excused myself to the bathroom, but went straight to my parents' room. Their laptop was open, emails with a lawyer subject, Ethan's adoption urgent. My dad appeared in the doorway, silent, blocking my exit. He knew I'd seen it back in the kitchen. They painted Lauren's move as a blessing. I'd get my freedom, date, focus on school. The whole thing sounded rehearsed. My phone buzzed. Emma, she'd seen me in the attic earlier and was worried. Mom snatched my phone away, grounding me again. After discovering the truth, everything around me started to look different. The house I grew up in, the people who raised me, the memories I thought were mine, they all felt like part of a long, carefully scripted performance. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed with Ethan's small hand curled in mine and realized how fragile our connection had become, not because of him, but because of everything that had been built on lies. I knew they would try again. They always did. Every time I got close to something true, they buried it deeper. The next morning, Lauren was suddenly sweet, asking if I wanted to help pack Ethan's things, as if we were just loving sisters preparing for a trip. She acted like nothing had happened, like I hadn't found the birth certificate, or the letters, or the photos. That kind of manipulation used to break me, but now it made me sharper. I started keeping Ethan closer, watching every interaction, every slip of truth that fell out of their mouths. I knew I couldn't keep this up alone, so I reached out to Emma again. We met in the park by the old swings, and I told her everything. She didn't ask if I was sure. She didn't doubt me. She just hugged me and said, whatever you need, I'm in. That was the first time I felt truly seen. Since this nightmare began, Emma helped me make copies of everything: photos, documents, emails, the birth certificate, the letters from the therapist, the blurry camera shot from the attic. We hid the files in different places: her backpack, a folder at the library, a USB in Mrs. Chen's office. Emma even introduced me to her cousin Rachel, who had interned at a law firm. Rachel listened quietly, took notes, and said if we played this right, we could build a timeline strong enough to shake the foundation they'd built. Rachel helped us draft a letter to Child Services explaining the situation, but without evidence. It was risky. That's when Lauren slipped. She came home drunk one night, bragging loudly on the phone about how she'd saved the family name and how I should be grateful for the life she gave me. I recorded it, the whole thing, her voice slurred but clear enough, saying things like she owes me her whole life, and I did the hard part, raising that boy and covering for everyone. That recording became our turning point. I sent it to Rachel, and she told me to get ready for a fight. Things moved quickly after that. The therapist I had as a kid reached out, saying she found records that didn't match what my parents told her. She offered to write a statement, and with Rachel's help we compiled everything into a massive timeline connecting my missing school year with Ethan's birth, my so-called illness, with medical treatments that matched pregnancy care. My parents began noticing something had changed. I stopped reacting to their manipulation. I smiled during fake family dinners, asked polite questions, and documented everything they thought I was giving up. But I was building my case piece by piece. I started noticing small shifts around the house too. My mom locked certain drawers. Lauren kept her door closed. Dad started checking the attic regularly. They knew I was onto something, but they didn't know how much I had. One night, I found Ethan in my room clutching his blanket, whispering, "You're my mom, right?" I froze. He had never said it that clearly before. I nodded and held him as tightly as I could, promising I would never let him go again. The next day, Lauren said she was taking Ethan on a weekend trip. I knew it was an excuse. She was scared of losing control, scared of the truth slipping out, so I followed her. I borrowed Emma's car and waited outside the place she'd taken him to. I watched as she snapped photos for social media, trying to look like the perfect mom, but Ethan looked miserable. When she left him alone to get coffee, I approached him. I knelt down and asked, "Do you remember what we talked about last night?" And he nodded. "I love you, Mom," he whispered. I recorded it, and then left before she saw me. The recording broke me and healed me all at once. Later that night, Rachel called. We had enough to request a hearing, not just to stop the adoption, but to establish guardianship and maybe even press charges against those who had helped cover everything up. I didn't know how to feel: scared, yes, but mostly ready. My whole life they had told me I was too sensitive, too confused, too broken to be believed. Now I had proof. Now I had voices other than mine saying the same thing. The day before the hearing, my parents tried one last time to get me to back down. They sat me at the kitchen table, told me I would ruin the family, that people would think I was unstable, that I would never be able to care for a child with special needs. They said I would end up alone. I just listened. Then I pulled out the documents one by one, laying them on the table. I watched their faces shift from smug to pale to angry to something I couldn't quite name. Mom tried to swipe the papers off the table, but I caught her hand midair and said, "Not anymore. You don't get to erase me again." The morning of the hearing felt like a storm had settled in my chest. I dressed Ethan in his favorite shirt, the one with the stars he liked to trace with his fingers every time he got nervous. I packed his noise-canceling headphones, his sensory toys, his favorite snack. I knew this wasn't just about the law, it was about showing everyone that he was safe with me, that I knew him better than anyone in the world. Emma and Rachel met us outside the courthouse, Rachel in her blazer holding a folder thick with everything we had collected, Emma holding my hand like a sister, like someone who knew exactly what it meant to be believed. The courtroom was colder than I expected, not just in temperature, but in tone. My parents sat across from us, rigid, carefully rehearsed, their lawyer polished and sharp. Lauren looked small for once, her eyes downcast, her shoulders tight, as if every lie she'd ever told had caught up to her. The judge entered, and I stood with Rachel, my knees shaking but my spine straight. We started with the medical records. Dr. Kumar's signed statement, The therapist's report. Rachel explained the discrepancies in my school records, the strange visits, the timing that matched perfectly with a hidden pregnancy. My mom whispered something to their lawyer, his eyes darting to the documents with just a flicker of doubt. Then came the photos, birthday parties, therapy sessions, Ethan drawing pictures of our family, with me always in the center. I saw the court clerk's eyebrows rise as she took notes. Ethan's drawings weren't evidence by law, but they told a truth that was harder to fake than any testimony. Then Rachel played the recording of Lauren, a drunken phone call, her voice echoing through the silent courtroom. I did the hard part, raising the boy and covering for everyone my whole life. She owes me. Gasps echoed around us. I didn't look at my parents. I focused on Ethan sitting beside me, fingers wrapped around mine, like he always did when things got too loud. When the judge asked if I had anything else, I nodded and stood slowly. My voice didn't shake this time. I told them what I remembered, not just the facts, but the feelings, the fear, the isolation, the way every adult around me told me I was wrong until I found proof that I wasn't. I told them about hiding in the attic, the therapy that didn't feel like therapy, the diary with missing pages, the photos that had been cut, the names changed, the silence imposed. I finished with the recording of Ethan calling me mom. My parents stood suddenly there. Lawyer objecting, yelling about manipulation, about parental rights, but the judge raised a hand, and silence fell like a curtain. Then Lauren stood too. Her voice was small, but firm. She told the court everything, how she'd agreed to the plan, because she was scared, how she'd been promised everything in return, how it had destroyed her from the inside, how I had been the one raising Ethan, feeding him, soothing him, knowing him. She cried, but didn't beg. She owned what she did for the first time. And that did more than any paperwork ever could. After hours of testimony, the judge requested a break. Everyone left except me and Ethan. He climbed into my lap and whispered, "Are we going home now?" I kissed the top of his head and said, "Not yet, but soon." The judge returned with a decision. The room held its breath. She said the evidence was not just compelling, it was overwhelming. She awarded me full legal custody, effective immediately, and requested an investigation into the actions of my parents and anyone who knowingly covered up the truth. I felt my knees buckle, but I didn't fall. Ethan squeezed my hand and smiled. For the first time in days, the courtroom slowly emptied. My parents left without a word, not a glance, not a sound, just silence, the kind that comes after a storm, when everything is still and broken, but finally clean. We moved in with Uncle Marcus. The next day his home smelled like old books and fresh bread, and the walls didn't echo with lies. Mrs. Chin visited with a stack of donated books for Ethan. Rachel dropped off more legal documents, and Emma brought us cookies and a list of fun things to do. When the world didn't feel so heavy, Dr. Kumar checked in weekly, making sure I was okay, reminding me that healing takes time, but it does happen slowly like sunlight through a cracked window. Lauren sent a letter 2 weeks later. No excuses, no defense, just an apology and a promise to help however she could. He wired Ethan's entire college fund to a new account in my name. Emma's mom helped us furnish Ethan's new room. Blue walls, stars on the ceiling, soft pillows, quiet corners, perfect for him. He danced through the house, pointing to everything and saying mine, like he was claiming his place in the world. My healing took longer. There were days I couldn't get out of bed, nights where every creak of the floor sounded like a lie returning to haunt me, but slowly I stitched myself back together, not as the girl they had molded, but as the mother I had become, not by choice, but by truth. One day, while walking through the park, Ethan pointed to a group of kids and said, "Mom, can I play?" I smiled and nodded, watching him run toward them, free for the first time, like he wasn't carrying a legacy of secrets on his tiny shoulders. I started journaling again, this time with no missing pages, no gaps, no lies, just the truth, raw, painful, and beautiful, the kind of truth that rebuilds what was broken, that tells the world I was here, I mattered, I fought back, and I won. My reflection: this story is more than just a tragedy, it's a declaration. It shows that no matter how deep lies are buried, they will always reach the surface when someone is brave enough to dig them out. It's a reminder that our voices matter, even when they tremble, even when they've been silenced for years. The truth doesn't heal all wounds, but it gives us a chance to move forward, to rebuild, and to finally live freely. Now I ask you, if everything you knew turned out to be a lie, would you still have the courage to fight for the truth?